Welcome to the December 14th, 2020 edition of the Three in the Key Pod. I am your host, Thomas Abdel Messiah. And the NBA preseason, the truncated preseason, has begun. We are 3 days in, and I want to spend this time talking about my gambling adventures over the last few weekends. Over the last few days. So I've been gambling on NBA, I'm going on year 5. So if we're talking about how successful have I been, first couple of years I took some pretty heavy losses, and probably recently, with year 3 being the worst, and probably last year was my best year. I broke even, and this year I'm off to a pretty good start. I made $3,000 this weekend, and so my strategy, usually I am a money line guy and I go for underdogs. So I just like to bet against the field, or bet against the thing about the money line is pretty much the odds are set by the general population. The bookie wants it even, and based on the volume of any given game, that's what's tilting the odds. So I like that because it's really going against the popular opinion. So I bet on 4 games this weekend. So first game I bet on was on Friday. And what game was that? It was Orlando at Atlanta. So Orlando was an underdog in that game, and I was able to make a bit of cash, taking them on the underdog against Atlanta. So Atlanta, a lot of hype coming into the season, huge free agent acquisitions. They added Bogdanovic, Capella's first full season. They added Gallinari, DeAndre Hunter, second year. Herder's back. And so basically they really loaded up this year. So there was a lot of people are projecting them to be 5th seed, 6th seed in the East. But here's the reality that I knew going in, that this is a team that's never dealt with expectations, essentially has a whole new team. So it's going to be some adjustment period. These guys are just learning to play together now. And you're going up against an Orlando team that had very little movement. Yes, they lost DJ Augustine, who was their starting point guard, but he was kind of starting point guard by default. He wasn't like the engine that runs their offense. So they've been planning since last year to have more Markelle Fultz taking over, hoping he would pan out. And it's a Steve Clifford team. He's from that Spurs family tree, so it's a very kind of regimented offense, like a fixed offense. They have their basic principles that they stick to. They're big on the wing defense, and they're just big in general, and they're challenged offensively. But they're in the good thing about the preseason, where as a sports bettor you can get some early wins, is consistency will get you a couple W's in the first couple weeks. Just a team running back the same roster automatically is in a better position than a team with a whole new roster. So I was able to, I won off that one. And then the second game I bet on was the Lakers and Clippers on Friday. I'm biased to begin with against the Clippers. I just don't see the hype. I think the Lakers figured them out probably February last year. They're like the Clippers. They're just like, and it was actually shocking. They sat LeBron and AD, and they played Kawhi and Paul George, and they still lost. And I didn't think it would be that bad. I knew LeBron and AD were sitting, and I still took the chance. I did much more of a conservative bet on that game, obviously, considering who was playing for the Lakers. But just not really sold on the Clippers. Still no floor general. Yeah, you added Serge Ibaka, but Serge Ibaka needs to be around good players to really get the best out of him. I don't think LA is going to get the Toronto version of Serge Ibaka. They don't have that open, free-flowing system that Toronto did that can really maximize a guy like Serge. So I'm a big Serge fan, but you're going to get lesser of him this year, unfortunately, I believe. So that was my Friday. And now my Saturday is really where I made the big gains. The game on Saturday that really did it for me, we had OKC at San Antonio. And because OKC was just basically, a clearance house over free agency, taking all deals, I guess. And they're all young guys. They don't have anyone established. They were a pretty heavy underdog. They were a plus 250 playing against San Antonio. And I think what happened was it was kind of the Pop. They got the rub from Pop in the money lines, where it's just everyone assumed it's a Pop team. They know what they're doing. They're just going to come in and keep on chugging. But look, the Spurs haven't been a good team for over a year now. They missed the playoffs last year. They probably shouldn't have been in the running. They probably overperformed a little bit. I'm a big DeMar DeRozan fan. I like Rudy Gay. I don't think DeMar DeRozan I think he's severely underrated, but look, they just don't have a lot of good pieces around him. The young guys, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, they're not bad. They're not great either. They're okay. They're definitely not the ideal pieces you would want to put around a guy like DeRozan, who can actually create a lot of great three-point opportunities if you put shooters around him. And they lost Bryn Forbes, who was probably their most consistent shooter. Yeah. And then they're bringing back Aldridge, and they play worse with Aldridge. And OKC, it's another year for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Really, clearly soaked in a lot of knowledge from his year with Chris Paul. That was like another year of college for him. He came looking so comfortable. It was a preseason game, so you can't read too much into it. But considering the minutes he's going to play, I think there's a really good case for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be most improved player this year, considering the opportunity he's going to have and just the confidence I see in his game. And, give it up to Sam Presti. He added a lot of nice young pieces around him. So, we got more Lou Dort. You got, who else do they have? Oh, man, it's hard to remember the names on this team. They got the young Polish kid who looks promising, but, probably not going to expect a lot out of him. And they got the guy, the big star of the game on Saturday was a kid from France, Maladon, who played for Tony Parker's team out in the French pro leagues. And OKC picked him up, and he dropped 20. And, basically what it was is they would keep switching out on Aldridge and Rudy Gay and just to the rim every time. And just San Antonio just doesn't have great offense right now. They don't have great shooters, and it was an easy win. And I really thankfully capitalized on that. And those are the kinds of things, especially early on in the season. That's, teams like OKC, I think you're going to be able to, to steal a few wins off OKC in the money line. Another team I like in the money line, and that I think you're going to be able to get a few W's out of is Indiana. So, Indiana, it's not just a small market team. It's like the smallest market team. It's so easy to forget Indiana. They don't have a real big star. Oladipo, he's not really a star. He's a good player, but thankfully they're starting to not center everything around him. They're really spreading it around. They got the Raptors assistant from last year, Nate Bjorkman, and he's instituting a lot of similar principles. They're playing a lot faster, a lot more ball movement, taking advantage of just the great guards that they have. So Brogdon's doing his thing. He's going to be even better this year under the new system. And then I think you're going to see more of the Holiday brothers playing with Sabonis. Hopefully, and Sabonis looked good, by the way. Just physically looked like he trimmed down a bit. Like them playing faster, I think is a good thing. They're probably not going to be as good defensively, but I think they'll be better offensively. And I think that's a good team if you're looking to steal a few W's against some middle-of-the-pack teams. I think Indiana's a good team to do that. And then I guess there are some teams that I think are going to take a step backwards this year. And one of the teams I think is going to take a step backwards, and I hate to say it because I love Nikola Jokic. He's one of my favorite players. I think Denver's going to take a step back. They lost a lot defensively. Losing Jeremy Grant is huge. Not so much for the offense. It's just the length that he has. And he wasn't Defensive Player of the Year by any stretch of the means, but just a guy that long who just knows where to be. You can't be understated enough. Just being in the right place does a lot for a defense in the NBA. Even if you're not necessarily putting in a lot of pressure. When you're in that spot, just being in that spot helps so much. He was a solid rebound. Denver didn't need to get smaller. They actually needed to get bigger. One of the things the Lakers exploited on them in the bubble was just the guards were small, right? Like you put Danny Green, you put Rondo, you put KCP. All these guys are around 6'5", 6'6", and outside of Murray, Gary Harris and these guys, it's just a lot of size to put against these guys, and it makes their life difficult. And they needed to get bigger on the wings, and I don't think they did. They're going to expand Michael Porter Jr.'s role, but unless I'm underrating him, unless he's going to be, a real third banana, I don't think he's ready for that yet. I think he's still learning. Last year was his rookie year, basically. So I'll be very interested to see how that's gonna pan out. I'll be, especially early on, I think that's a team that it's a safe bet against. For if they're playing a lot of New Orleans type teams or things like that. That's in that range where they're kind of 8 seeds. I think that's a bet against. One of the teams, the team I think that's going to take their spot as kind of the second best team in the West, I think it's going to be Utah. I've been watching their preseason games against Phoenix. Bogdanović hasn't lost. I mean, look, again, you can never read too much into it, but just especially these teams that didn't make any big moves, I think this preseason is different because they're playing the starters a lot. It's not so much about checking out the fringe guys. It's about getting everyone kind of back in rhythm because it's such a condensed preseason. So you can actually tell a lot from these preseason games, and Utah looked good. I mean, they got all their shooters locked and loaded. Donovan Mitchell's as confident as ever. They have George Niang. He's a knockdown shooter. Bogdanović is healthy and looks like the elbow is fine. And I think they brought back Derek Favors coming off the bench. I think they're going to take that spot from Denver as the legit second seed. Their offense was lights out last year before the bubble, especially from 3. I think they were 1 or 2 with Miami in terms of percentage. So I think that's going to continue, and I think their defense is probably going to get a little better this year. If they can cut down on the turnovers, because they were a high turnover team, they're right there. And so that's a team that looked really good. Phoenix does look really good. I think the hype is legit with them. I mean, not only they got a whole new squad. They added so many guys, and they look really good. I can't wait to see them really start to hit their stride. I think they're going to be a legit playoff team, probably like 6 or 7 seed. So those are my real kind of standouts from the first three nights of preseason. I'm going to keep updating this as the preseason goes along, let you know if I have any successes and some failures, because you can't just be all wins. There's going to be some W's. For example, today, I wouldn't call them losses, but they were definitely missed opportunities. So I cashed out early on the Raptors-Charlotte game. Raptors were down in the second quarter, like double digits, and the money line shifted to plus 200, and I took it. And just the Raptors looked pretty lethargic, kind of going through the motions, letting the new guys play. Kyle Lowry sat out again, which I knew. But even like Fred VanVleet, he had an awesome second quarter, and that just tied the game. That didn't pull them ahead. And then in the third quarter, they seemed down. They were still trailing a little bit. They just didn't look like they put their foot on the gas. And, Charlotte in the first game was able to close the lead. And I thought, maybe the Raptors are just going through the motions this game. So I cashed out early. It just didn't make any money, but didn't lose any money. And then I had another opportunity with Dallas and Milwaukee. Again, I had a feeling Dallas would win. Dallas kind of got smoked in the first game on Friday. And I thought this game you'd get a bit more focused effort. First half, Dallas didn't look all that good. I was able to get them at a plus 280, plus 285. And I rode them until about middle of the third quarter. And then I cashed out. Didn't make much. Made about 40% on top of my principal. But Dallas ended up running them out of the gym, right? So it was it was a good sign that I probably bet too much, because I was very quick to cash out when I should have probably just rode it out, and I would have done well. The picks were good, but I just pulled out too early. So, because it's still that preseason mentality, they're just gonna they had Luka playing till the end of the third. I'm like, they're probably gonna limit his minutes, pull him out early, things like that, and they didn't. And they kept Josh Richardson in there and things like that. And yeah, so when Milwaukee rested Giannis, they were still playing Luka, and I think that's what started the momentum shift. And then just the Dallas bench took over and kind of routed them in the fourth quarter. So these are just, kind of figuring out the groove, the rhythm of this COVID preseason. And, hopefully it leads to a few more W's. So that wraps it up for today. I'll be posting another episode on Wednesday. Until then, I hope you guys successful wagers and some good hoops. And this has been the 3 in the Key podcast. Have a great night.